operating procedure, who does what, because the confusion is much. The confusion will lead to wasting of the resources, as I've said. So in all, what I've said here is that by the time we look at it, in IDP, you have resettlement, you have rehabilitation and reintegration. Different partners have different capacity of either financing or funding that sector. So that's why we need to go back to check who are really these new actors that are here, so you can work in these other areas. The next thing that I think Margaret and the team can be doing here is to move a movement about mainstream the entire issue of IDP into the sectoral plans of government. I'm not sure that is something one sector will do now. Okay, it's not something one sector can do. So let's say IDP policy in all policies. Okay, education has to come in, justice. They have legislation and the budget on that track. And then let's me not take too much time. The one that is in my heart is the private sector. We need to bring in private sector very quickly. You have seen what somebody like Tony Elumelu is doing in terms of economic empowerment. Because if these youths will turn into the next Margaret, I think they need also capacity. So the private sector does that. Private sector also builds shelters. Private sector also builds schools. A private sector can renovate the PAC very close to IDP camp. So if we are saying we are going to private sector, we need to now find how do we talk to private sector, because it's a business. So we are talking already motivating the private sector to come in. In health, we call it incentivizing the private sector. What is it that will tell them that will make them also to take up this? Is it corporate social responsibility, or is just emotional blackmailing them on the need that they are humans, they go through the window of humanity? Already in the health, there are so many politicians that have started adopting PACs per ward. So who tell you that if you bring a private sector, like me, I can innovate one, very close to one IDP. So I just brought this in together so that I will look at it. I won't be happy leaving this room if as I'm leaving, there's no youth here boiling what you can do in area to support. Finally, we also use these young people, energetic people, to be involved in peace building. Peace building is part of IDP management and funding, because there are a lot of conflicts inside the IDP. So some youth here, you can venture into peace building. There are so many UN agencies looking for people who they can use to deliver this. So Denika, I thank you so much for the opportunity. Maybe extra allow me and let me hear a shout that there are so many Margarets here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Can we give him a round of applause? And I would have been so pained if I missed this session, so apologies again. But thank you very much. And those are critical notes to end on, really. And I love the charge, because what we're really looking at is how do we move away from aid dependency to sustainable interventions? And we all have a role to play. So thanks for those, and I know you keep saying the young Margarets, and we're all the young Margarets in this room, because we're all moving from here to taking action. Thanks for the reminder about private sector. For me, that really stood out, because earlier on when we talked about the non-traditional actors, who are those partners that need to be at the table, the private sector is key. And thanks for all those things about prioritizing government investment, looking at that fiscal space analysis once again. So thanks again, Dr. Sampson. Now we'll throw it open to the room if we have questions. Okay, I can see hands going up in places. I hope we have the mic going round. Who's helping us with the mic, please? So there's 1 and 2, 3. I think the other panel had 4 questions. For now, we have 3, so we can start with that. Okay, the mic is coming to you, right? Thank you. Just a minute for the mic to get to you. So like we did earlier on, we'll take all the questions. So please let's note down questions, and then after we take the questions, the panelists can answer. So let's start with, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, members of the panel, for a wonderful presentation. My name is Chinya Ruguchumuba, a journalist from Armed Forces Radio. I'm a bit worried and concerned about something. I love all the ideas that we're bringing up, thinking about sustainability, innovative ways. But my question is, when we also say internally displaced persons who are in IDP camps, it means that these people have been moved out of a certain place. Are we still nursing the idea that at some point there will be a reason for them to go back to it is, or that it's more like there is no agenda? I wish the representative of the Minister of State Humanitarian Affairs were here to actually answer this. So I'm looking at the long run, what the plan is like to get people back to their communities, to ensure that people are able to, have their lives restored in their communities, get back to their ancestral homes and all that. Or this is completely out of the agenda, and so we just have to make do with what we have to sustain them wherever they are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question. There was a hand over there. Yes, please.
Thank you, the panelists. And I wanted to first reaffirm Dr. Sampson's statement that hope there are lots of Bolajis in the house. Yeah, truly. My name is Samson Odukogwe and I work with AF. AF is Association for Reproductive and Family Health, and I lead the youth efforts. And I can firmly say that I am also one of Bolaji doing great efforts in the community. My issue is, earlier on, my director of program was here and we're having a discussion. And I said there are lots of organizations doing a lot of big things in IDP camps and other communities. But then we need to do a lot of research. We need to have statistics from our efforts in the community. These are what our stakeholders want to see, our donors. They want to see figures. We want to know your best practices, the lessons you've learned, why implementing some of these projects. These are things that the funders want to see. I was very happy when I saw the success stories from the implementation. It's a very good idea, but then we want to see more of this. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next question, there was one hand over here. No, at the back there, yes, there was a gentleman there. Thank you.
All right, so thank you very much. I think it's been an exciting conversation, particularly as it regards to domestic resource mobilization. And I'm grateful that the anchor has consistently, or rather the last speaker has consistently highlighted the need for us to have more Margarets out there. And just to reassure you that there's a lot of more Margarets just standing behind her here and hoping that we can continue these conversations. But really, I wanted to quickly thank you for differentiating funding from financing. And just to mention that really what we need as a country now is financing with all of the Trump shenanigans, permit me to use that word. And for now, I was going to quickly ask, as it regards to the speaker before that spoke about financing, I wanted to know what his experience is like. And this is really about being very honest. We live in a country where it seems people have lost faith in the nation. People believe that there's a lot humongous corruption in the system and a lot of resources that naturally should be solving societal problems are being looted by very few. That in itself has limited people's readiness to invest in trust funds, I must say. Especially when you talk about trust funds that are hosted for initiatives like these where people feel, what is government doing? Why is government not responding? Why are we the ones to fund issues like this, okay? And I wanted to say, You tried to bridge that gap when you talked about how do we now effectively engage the private sector in some sort of public-private partnerships to drive this kind of initiatives. And I wanted to know what his experience is like in getting the sector to invest in all of these trust funds that has been developed in Kano State, particularly for humanitarian initiatives and interventions like this. And also to mention that a lot of other countries have done some sort of tax incentives that has driven the private sector's involvement in resource mobilization for health-related interventions. How has that helped in Kano State in your ability to drive resources from the private sector? Are we able to provide some tax reliefs that helps people to say, oh, okay, I can do this if I am getting this? Because like you mentioned, it's business, right? It's business. And beyond the CSR, whatever I do for CSR is not an obligation, it's what I do as CSR. Nobody holds me by force to say I must do that. So
thank you.
How do we get, sorry about that, how do we get the private sector incentivized to drive their involvement in domestic resource mobilization? And finally, what is your experience with social impact bonds? Do you think it's something that can work in a country impacts?
The lady in front here. Can you keep your hand raised so you can see you, please? Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, our panelists. My name is Dorcas. I work with Dorothy Njemanze Foundation. And my question is, I really want to know, what consideration do we have? You know, when we talk of IDPs, the picture I have is people displaced and taken to another community. What are the considerations for the people in that community where they are moved into? I say this from experience. Where I come from, we have internally displaced persons who were moved to another community, and that in itself created more problems, because now the people, there's a bit of competition for resources in the community that they go to. And so are there considerations for the people who were in the community before these displaced persons were brought in? What initiatives do we have? How do we manage that? How do we ensure that trying to solve one conflict does not result in another conflict? And then when we talk of reintegration, are we talking about integration? Let me not say reintegration, integration. Are we talking about integrating this IDPs into the community that they find themselves, or talking about taking them back to theirs? What is the plan for that? And if we say we're putting them in a community where they find themselves now, what kind of problems do we envisage will come out from that, and how do we think we can manage those problems? Thank you.
Okay, all right. So thank you very much, and thanks everyone for those questions. We're going to take responses. We'll start from the panels, the panelists, but then we'll end up with the representative from the National Commission for Migrant Refugees and IDPs. Dr. Magashi, maybe we'll start with you because you had quite a few, and then perhaps Dr. Sampson, you'll address the ones that was addressed to you, the one about, I'm trying to, taxes. Financing, yes, financing. It also came from the same gentleman as well. There was a question around research, statistics, best practices. I know, Dorcas, when you were speaking earlier on, you talked about that. But I think I will move this actually to Yusuf, because you actually shared about how you're doing that work with FMOH. And I'll let Dorcas take the question from Dorcas. You take the question from Dorcas, and I know that the representative from the National Commission will have some elements in that question from Dorcas as well. So this time around, I will start with Dr. Magashi, and then we'll come to you, Dr. Sampson. Thank you. I will not miss you this time. Thank you.
So thank you very much, for the question regarding the trust funds. The biggest asset, for managing and implementing trust fund is that, people to be comfortable that these people are honest, they are trusted, they are tested, and they are really genuinely interested in, solving problem. This is to me the biggest, asset. there's a lot of concern about if a government is managing a trust fund, people, as he said, the money could be diverted. But also sometimes we're not interested in tracking the money also. We become a bit, relaxed, and, people keep taking the money away and nobody is talking. So I think this to me is very critical, that if a government is managing a trust fund, like for example, we have the basic healthcare provision fund in Nigeria. In 2025, there is 280 billion naira, within the allocation, for the BSCPM. Last year, about 128 billion naira. So even knowing that there is money, that there's some level of accountability. And we need to engage the coordinating minister and the MPSCD and everybody managing the money to keep tracking the money. And if they are holding a meeting, we should knock at the door. We shouldn't wait for any invitation. I kept telling the CSO, we shouldn't wait to be invited. We should knock at the door and say, we're here. We are stakeholders. We need to be on the table. You are managing our money. We should be stakeholders. So it's not easy even to do that. But we have to try. I think this could improve the transparency and accountability. We have a skill cell trust fund, for the last 7 years in Kano. We have a, cancer support trust fund. We have a security trust fund. Now, these are pockets of, accounts that we allow some NGOs to manage on behalf of many NGOs. So, SWAC in Abuja could say, okay, 5 NGOs hosted by SWAC coming together to manage a humanitarian trust fund. Also, okay, we trusted the system. We put our money. We have a board of trustees who will be meeting regularly to ensure that the money is being utilized, in the right way. So I think we need to trust each other, but we need to track the money. We need to put an eye so that nobody, takes away the money to other things. It's not easy, but I believe we can do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thanks for that note about don't wait to be invited.
Yes.
We should actually be at this table. But I know there was something about how, and I didn't want you to miss that out, getting the private sector. What's the experience in Kano
exactly.
about getting private sector?
So, we have a Kano State Healthcare Trust Fund. Just to give an example of the involvement of the private sector. The private sector, they are involved, and there are a lot of incentive the government is creating to ensure there's a collaboration. Like the issue of the tax relief, that could be an incentive. Okay, if you are going to pay government 100 million, let's say every year as a private sector, government could say, okay, you pay 40 million or pay 60 million. And the 40 million becomes a tax relief that you can take back to society and support the trust fund. So this could be an incentive and also recognition. They're giving you some annual awards where you have a handshake with the governor, the traditional ruler in the society, so that people will see your product and also, use that product for, at their own home. So we need to devise a lot of innovation.
It's not, I will not label it again. Just as when we're in the church and the pastor does an auction call for you to come and give yourself to Christ. Margaret, please, a lot of people have given themselves to Christ. Collect the names of those young men or a donor or private sector to put their money into the government pocket. So we continue to do what we call public financial management analysis and capacity building. It is a discussion and it continues to go on. Managers, even some of you here are not confident. So let's start from there. Is a discussion that another thing is that the scripture, the book I read, and some erudite scholars like Max Munro and Jim Rohn say that my people perish because of lack of knowledge. Okay, so tax waiver has been done in the past through HIV/AIDS program. For some local manufacturer HIV, government gives tax waiver. As I'm talking to you also, government can give a space, office space. It happens, okay? Also, government also has, in health sector, has opened a window of what we call public, local manufacturer vaccine and family planning through an initiative called PVAC. So in that aspect, it means that domestic companies are going to be doing that manufacture. They can give also licenses to more universities if it comes up and more. There are so many things. But before you venture into this place, please read your books. Study that area. If you want to be wealthy, read book on wealth. If you want to do this, read a book on it. Also, finally, please, you need to also be capacity on how to talk to government. You don't talk to government as an activist, they won't listen to you. So learn how to talk to government. When I was in government, a minister was in power, and the brother brought a proposal. I was in HIV, NASCAP, then. Brought a proposal for us to fund HIV awareness in India State. And the minister minuted it to minute until get to my desk. Because the minister was my teacher, I put that proposal in the drawer and closed it up. So they were looking at it, tracing it, and they got to me, and the young man was raising voice. I said, stop raising voice. I'm saving your brother who doesn't know that government does not give money to an NGO. So sometimes you people bring proposal to government. We don't give. Where do you have it? Which chart of account will you give? What government can do is to link you up to a partner that funds you. You can say, meet ALF, meet UNICEF. You can give a letter. That is the highest they can do. So you should know how to talk to government. Otherwise, you can negotiate everything. Somebody came to us and said, hey, government is doing nothing, funding HIV. I said, but no, government has a national HIV policy, which provided environment for you to enter. If that is not there, you go home. So let's learn how to talk to government when we want to mobilize government. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Nike. I would like to touch on, the question on research, and, a way it touches a little bit on some of the other issues. I know that, we have experience in emergency, by now, and there's a large body of work in our universities. I'm sure our PhD candidate will attest to that. So there's information, out there on now linking it to emergency preparedness and response. A lot of times we think about the emergency and then the response. The preparedness, is mostly left out. And I believe a lot of what we have in terms of research could go into how we plan, to responding to those emergencies. By, preparing better. For FP 2030, the way we work with governments and organizations, you make a commitment. And Nigeria has a very strong commitment in terms of emergency preparedness and, response. And importantly, a key component of that is, understanding how to, do better going forward, which, we link to what we are understanding from what is coming out, from universities to be able to respond, better. There were a couple of comments as well as questions talking about integration or reintegration, IDPs in host communities. I also believe there's a lot of research that would have been done that we can utilize, better to improve in humanitarian programming. Lastly, of course, there has been mention of the private sector, so much. But even beyond the private sector, there are a lot of other entities we can, engage with in terms of mobilizing resources for financing for, either health or responding to, humanitarian situations. Sometime last year, even though that has been overtaken by, events from the signature of the man in the West, we were developing, a private sector engagement framework with Federal Ministry of Health, as well as Propel Adapt, which is no longer, there. How you engage the private sector for SRHR in emergencies specifically. It is something that we hope to, dust and, bring out. The work continues, and we would be, talking to some of you to see how we can, finalize that and see it being used by, the government as well as other organizations to continue to mobilize resources to respond to emergencies and the health needs of, IDPs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yusuf. And Dorcas?
Yeah, I think Yusuf has touched on Dorcas's questions. So, so let me just add my voice to it. Dorcas, so integration can happen in two ways. And I think if you have followed some of the things that are happening in Borno State with the current governor, there were a lot of rehabilitations that were done in those communities where it were before now affected by the insurgency. So he did some restructuring, building, and then like a kind of a reintegration or resettlement of some of those IDPs back to their communities. In some places, it's not the communities that they were because it's still not safe. I'm not talking about Borno State, but I'm just giving an example of other places. In other places, it might just be like the Wasa community, right? But in an ideal situation, the communities that is supposed to be the host community is supposed to be studied and known what amenities need to be provided to be able to take up the additional population that is coming in. I'm just giving an ideal situation, best practices. But do we have it here? And I think that's the reason why Dr. Sampson was saying that we need to maybe go back to the policies and begin to look at the policies very well and say, is this policy really serving us or not? If it is not serving us, what have we learned over the years that we want to bring it back? And because policies are working documents, they are not cast on stone. So all we just need to do is just to review it to ensure that it is meeting the current needs. So these things need to happen. But I am also an advocate that you don't need to leave somebody in a makeshift IDP camp. They need to be integrated back to the community, whatever communities, whether it's a new community, but at least a community of human beings with all the amenities that is needed, or the old communities that is now safe, mark my word, that is now safe for them to go back and continue with their normal way of life. And I think that was the same question my media friend asked, right? Yes, so the consideration is that we also need to consider them, because absolutely if you don't consider the host community, you're just putting, there's definitely going to be another conflict that will definitely happen because of the amenity, because everybody will be rushing for the limited resources that is needed in the community. So the community, these resources need to be expanded to be able to like a kind of accommodate all. I think I've answered the two questions.
Thank you very much, Dorcas. Thank you. A round of applause for our panelists. But then we're still taking Chinwe's question, and I'm going to go to Mrs. Ifeoma Udwak from the National Commission for Migrant Refugees and IDPs. Where's the second mic?
I want to thank these distinguished panelists in a special way. I mean, it has been very, very educative. Thank you, the moderator. Let me let you know that NCFRMI, National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons, is the lead agency when it comes to return, reintegration, and resettlement. My friend from Emphasis Radio, the reporter there, she was just asking whether they will remain in that camp or is it their maybe home? Are we just letting them live like that? No. The best interests of the IDPs are our concern. Their best interest is our concern. So you find out that if they want to return back to their ancestral homes, we will make sure that peace has returned there. We'll make sure that there is security. We'll make sure that there are no landmines, everywhere is safe and serene for them to go back. So if they say they want to reintegrate to that community where they are, fine. The host community there, because our target, we don't just target the IDPs. We also make our interventions to the host community. Though they tell us 70-30, that is the percentage. So he found out that in the host community, there is this free medical care. It is not for IDPs alone. There are some host communities you see borehole. It is not for the IDPs alone. So right now, the project we are carrying out is a resettlement city we have completed at Kefi, Nasarawa, like I earlier said in the morning. Before then, they've sank borehole for the host community. And what we are planning now is peace advocacy, peace education, peace sensitization, so that these people will cohabit peacefully with the host community there. Because that resettlement city is not their ancestral home. They are just coming in there. So the day we took them down there, in as much as we are yet to unveil that place, about close to 200, over 200 of them are there now. All what we brought for them, the host community were there, they partook. Food and non-food items. The host community were there. The emir, the other paramount rulers, they were very happy to welcome these people. But it is not still enough. We are going there to advocate for peace. Are we together? Because inside that resettlement city, we made it comfortable to them. There is police station, there is market, there is school, there is mosque, there is church, there is skill acquisition center. So we don't leave the host communities like that. We also carry them along. The reintegration, I told you, the interest of the IDP is our concern. If they want to be there, if they want to go to the ancestral home, we'll make sure peace have returned before we take them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And I can see Madam Kuri standing, so we'll take 30 seconds each. We'll start from Dorcas and go in order that way. So as we close this panel session, your closing thoughts and remarks. Thank you.
So I think my closing statement is a call by all, by the government, by private individuals, and even by individuals like you and I. So mobilization card, right? I was so happy when I saw it. I believe that all of us will go out making some commitment.
Targets and goals. There's no way we can, reach, constitute 50 or more partnerships and collaborations, and coordinate effectively to ensure that their health and well-being is prioritized. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Magashi.
So hoping that the communique